say to me in Bowers Game Corner.
Hey there, YouTube. I'm back again for another How to Play video. Today I'm very excited to teach you how to play Monopoly Fall Guys Ultimate Knockdown from Hasbro. This is for 2 to 4 players. Age is 8+. We got everything set up. So the first thing you're going to want to do is assemble all the different traps and place them into their correct space, which you can see right here, or it's on the insert of the box. But you're going to want to make sure that every trap is unactivated, which means you can see the information on the spot like so. You'll also notice that there's no information on the blue spots. We'll talk about that later. Next, make sure that each player has this in their player. This is a player reference card, double-sided, super duper useful. And make sure each player has $10,000 with 1 pink 5,000 kudos and 5 purple 1,000 kudos. Now, if you happen to be playing a 2-player version of the game, both of you will actually start with 20,000 kudos. But we're setting up a 3-player example, so everyone has 10,000 kudos. Next, each player is going to pick out one of the characters and put them on the go spot right here. Any additional characters you're not using in player reference can be set back into the box. You will not need it. Next, whoever's best at math is going to be the banker, and they will need all of the round cards, which are these, placed near them along with all the kudos and however many crowns you are using in the game. In a 4-player version of the game, you'll need 6 crowns. In a 3-player version of the game, you'll need 4 crowns. And in a 2-player version of the game, you'll need 4 crowns. So I'll set these 2 off in the box because we're only going to need 4 of these crowns. Set them over near the banker for now and have everyone roll the D6 die. Whoever gets the highest number is going to go first. If there's a tie, roll off until eventually one person will go first. And on your turn, every single turn, you're going to roll both of these dice. Now, the numbered die is pretty self-explanatory. That's how many spaces you get to move. However, the stickered die is the one where things get a little bit weird because it has different symbols on it, and we'll talk about each of the symbols in a second, but right now I just want to show you the movement. So let's pretend orange did the 5. They would get to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, they didn't have to stop here because this one you can just go over as normal, but if you land on there, you stop there. And they didn't stop at this obstacle as well because it currently is not activated. And you'll know it's activated because it will be blocking the spot. Now, if that were to happen, then this character would have got to go 1, 2, 3, and then they would have to stop at the gate crash unless their special die will let them break the rules. So let's talk about the special die and the different faces you'll see on it. So the first symbol we need to talk about is the little coin right here. If you happen to get this, at any point on your turn, you're going to be able to collect 2,000 kudos. Hooray. You just say, I want my 2,000 kudos, and the banker will give you 2,000 kudos from the bank. Simple as that. Next, we have the jump, which will allow you to jump over an activated obstacle, which is exactly what we need right now. So let's actually play this out right now, and I'll show you exactly what would happen if orange were to start right here. So they would go 1, 2, 3, and they would probably decide to use this, which means, whoo, they jump over it. But that doesn't count as one of their 5 movements, so they would keep going 4, 5, and then they would be on dizzying heights, and they would deal with whatever happens there, which we'll talk about in a second. So the important thing to note here is you can pretty much activate the special die or do your movement however you want to do it on your turn. You don't have to do it before or after you move the 5. You can do it in the middle if you'd like. The next symbol you'll see are these little claws right here, and these allow you to activate or deactivate a trap. You might want to deactivate a trap if you have to go past it and it's activated. So let's pretend that this happened to be activated. That means I can't go past this spot until it gets deactivated. And just to clarify, these are always active and they can never be deactivated, these blue seesaws. The other big thing about activating a trap is that if someone happens to be on that location, well, you can go BAM! And you can knock them off the board. When that happens, that player has to go back to the last corner spot they passed, but they don't have to activate the ability. So this character would not actually go to jail. They're just saying hi to the police. Also, the activated trap stays activated, which means they still have to find a way to get past it. Now, the last symbol on the special die you'll see is this, which allows you to move another bean. This allows you to move an opponent, you can't move yourself, 1 space forward or backward. Now, you cannot move a player onto a space with an activated trap, so you can't, make them so they're right here. But you can move them to the space before or after that obstacle. So you actually kind of get to move them 2 spaces in this specific situation if you'd like. Now, the major rule to remember with the move a bean action is that they do not take the action on the space that you move them to. So let's say you move them over here to the hexagon and you own the hexagon. They don't have to pay you 5,000, but they also don't get the opportunity to purchase it either if no one has bought it. So on your turn, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to roll the dice and then you're going to move and eventually you're going to land on a spot. So now let's talk about all the different spots and what you do when you land on them. First, if you land on one of the rounds, which are scattered all around the board, and most people know them as properties, you have the option to purchase that round if no one else has purchased it. Now, if someone else has purchased it, then you have to pay them rent, which is the number listed on the card. And if they happen to have both colors of the same round, then you're going to have to pay them double, which is also listed on the bottom. So for instance, if I had the door dash and the gate crash and someone landed on the door dash, they would have to pay me 2,000 kudos. If you ever have to pay someone kudos and you don't have enough kudos, then you have to either sell some of your kudos back to the bank and you get face value for them, but they're completely gone and other people can now buy them back by landing on the spot, or you can sell them to other people or trade them to other people. And the one thing I want to mention about trading, aka selling, is that you can do that on your turn whenever you'd like, with anyone you'd like, but you can never trade a crown. You can trade kudos and you can trade rounds. And if you ever get to the point that you don't have enough money and you don't have rounds to sell off to get the money for someone else, give that person as much of your kudos as you have, and your turn is up. They are not going to get that additional money. The last scenario that can happen, though, is if you land on a round and no one has purchased it, but either you can't afford it or you don't want to buy it, it gets put up for auction. And how this works is the banker just starts an auction, and it has to start at 1,000 kudos, and then everyone, including the player who said that they didn't want it, gets to bid on it, popcorn style, meaning everyone can holler out bids at the banker. Eventually, someone will win the round, they will pay the money to the bank, and then they will be awarded that round. And yes, the banker does get to bid. And play will move to the next player on the left, because the game will always be going clockwise around the table. So the rounds are pretty self-explanatory if you've played Monopoly before, but let's talk about the rest of the properties. First, we got roll agains, which are scattered around the board. This is really quite simple. You're going to roll both the dice, and you're going to get to do things again. Next, we have the yellow spots, which are collect 2,000 kudos, so the banker just gives you 2,000 kudos if you land on that spot. We have the blue spots, which are pay 2,000 kudos. And those go to the bank as per normal. And then last we have the two purple spots, which are to roll for kudos. And how this works is if you end your spot on this turn, you roll the dice, and that's how many kudos you get. So we would get 5,000 kudos. But remember, you can never land on a spot if it is activated. So even if you were supposed to land on this space, you would stop once again at the space before. And pretend that that was the spot that you landed on. Also, if you get stuck in front of a trap more than one turn in a row, every future turn, you do not have to activate that spot. The only other spots we need to talk about are the corner spots. So first we have free parking. That's just a regular space. You land there, you don't do anything at all. Next we have jail, which if you happen to land here, you're on the just visiting spot. You don't have to worry, you can move on the next turn. However, in the corner up here, we have the go to jail spot. And if you land on the go to jail spot, you have to go immediately into jail, not on the just visiting area. If you do this, you do not get the bonus that you would normally get for landing or passing on the go spot, which I'll talk about next. Now, when you are in jail, when it gets to your turn, the first option you have every single turn is if you would like to pay 5,000 kudos, you can roll the dice as per normal and then just get out of jail and keep moving on your merry way. Now, if you don't want to pay the 5,000 kudos or you don't have 5,000 kudos, then you still roll both the dice. And if you happen to get a 6, good for you. You get to move as per normal, so you just get to move 6 spaces, and you could dive over something if you need to. However, let's pretend that we didn't get a 6. If you get any other number aside from 6, then you are stuck in jail and you don't get to move. However, you still do get to trigger the special ability that you roll on the die. You obviously can't dive over anything, but you can still activate, deactivate, move someone, or gain 2,000 kudos. Now, if you're stuck in jail and it's your third time trying to roll for a 6, there's good news and there's bad news. First, if you don't get the 6, you're going to have to pay $5,000 to get out of jail no matter what. Which means you might potentially have to sell off some of your properties or trade them to other people if you're strapped for cash. But after you pay the $5,000 to the bank, you get to move normally and you get to use the special dice normally as well. Now, the last spot we need to talk about, and arguably the most important spot on the board, is the go spot. When you pass go, or when you land on go on your turn, you immediately collect 2,000 kudos. Now, the other really important thing you get is that you get one of these crowns, and these crowns are worth 10,000 kudos at the end of the game. In addition to being worth that much, they also are going to tell you when the game is over, because once someone has taken the last crown, they are done for the game completely. They will not take another turn, and every other player in the game is then going to go around the board until they get to go, at which point you will do the scoring to see who has won. So just to clarify, let's pretend that green landed here, and even if they had extra spaces, they are done completely. They would not take the extra spaces. They collect $2,000. They get the crown. Oh, it's the last crown. which means they can start counting up their points. Orange and blue, however, still have to get to go, which means they're going to go back and forth taking turns until they eventually get to go. And yes, along the way, they can still land on other people's properties, pay them money, go to jail, play the game pretty normally. Eventually, what will happen, though, everyone will finally get to that go spot. And yes, if there's no more crowns left, you don't get a crown. However, you still get the 2,000 kudos when you get there. But now every player is going to tally up their points, and it's really quite simple to do. For every crown you have, it's worth 10,000 points. Then you're going to tally up your kudos, so right now that would be an additional 7,000 kudos right there. And last but not least, you also get the rent on your properties one time. So let's pretend that these properties were mine at the end of the game. I would get an additional 3,000, 1,000, and 1,000. That would be an additional 5,000 kudos. Likewise, if you happen to have a monopoly, you get the bonus on the bottom. So I'd still get 3,000 for this yellow, but I would get 2,000 for this blue and 2,000 for this blue because I have a monopoly. Anywho, total up the points, and the player with the most kudos is the winner. If there's a tie, the player with the most rounds, aka property, claims the victory. If there's still a tie, share the victory. But that's how you're going to play Monopoly Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. If this helped you out, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Also, consider subscribing as I teach new games all the time. But go have some fun, and thanks for your time, YouTube. This video is brought to you by all of my amazing Patreon supporters, and I would love it if you would join their ranks and have your name immortalized in the end of many of my videos for the end of time. But consider for only $1 a month, and as always, thanks for stopping by.